Well, let us see how to store data in Android application. We have created the registration form. In that you have to collect the data from input fields and you have to store it. Android provide different options to store the data. Something like shared preferences and SQLite database, content provider, file system and cloud storage. Okay, but as of now I will explain only shared preference. So in the later sessions we will discuss about other data storages. So let us start with shared preference. Okay, so before starting how to implement the shared preference or how to store data in shared preference, let us see, if not I will explain a basic example like how you can store data in a book. Okay, in the same way you can store data in shared preference. Suppose I have some content, if not I want to write something into a book. So what are the basic steps I have to follow? So I will make a note of that. So if you want to write to book, if you want to write, then what are the steps you will follow? The steps will be like this. First you have to open the book, then the second step will be you have to open the particular page where you have to write the content. So open page, then so what you need to write the content? So you need pen, so take pen, okay, you have the book, you have opened the page, now you have the pen also, then using the pen write the content. So next step will be write content. Okay, then after that you will close the pen, if not you will put the cap to pen, so that is like something close pen. Okay, so these are the basic steps you will follow if you want to write something into your book. So let us follow the same steps to write content into the shared preference. So I will show the syntax. Go to your home page where you have collected the data from registration form. Here is your data. Okay, now below this I will try to store the data into the shared preference. Okay, the syntax will be like this. You can note it down. Okay, you have a class called as shared preferences. Take the variable something like shr, which is equal to get shared preferences. Okay, it accepts two parameters. One is name and the second parameter is mode. As I told, the first step should be you have to open the book. So here this is your book if you consider, and you are opening that book, then you are opening a particular page in a book. So this name is nothing but the page. So I will give something like okay, I will give the page name as data. Okay, now in which mode you want to write the data? Okay, you have different modes here. You can check it out. Something like mode private. Okay, so you don't bother about mode append, all those things, because they are used in files. Now here you can find, you will start with the mode private. Mode private means whatever the data you are writing to the shared preference in this particular application, so that data will be accessed within this application, and if and only if you are providing the page name properly. Okay, so now what all the other different modes you have? You have mode world readable, means if you make the permission or the mode as world readable, then any application can read this particular data. Not only your application, any application present in your phone can read this particular data which is present in your shared preference. In the same way, you have some other option like mode world writable. It means any other application can modify this data. And you have one more option called as mode multi-process, means different processes can access or modify your data. Okay, so this is about the permissions or the mode. As of now, let us go with the mode private. Only this application can access the data. Okay, so now after this you have taken the book here. So what is our next step? You have opened the page also. So the third step is you have to take the pen. So for that, in Android you have one option called as editor. Okay, so take the editor, shared preferences dot editor. I'll give the name as editor. Okay, so you have to edit this particular shared preference. So shr dot edit. Okay, you got the book, you have opened this particular page and you have the pen here. So the next step is you have to write the content. Check it out. The next step is you have to write the content. So where is the content? Here is your content. So you have to write that content. For that, the syntax is use your editor. It means use your pen, editor dot put string. Look at here. If I try to add something into the shared preference, it is showing some options here. Something like put boolean, float, int, long, string or string set. It means in shared preference you can store only a primitive data type's data. Okay, mainly the shared preference is used to store a limited data or small chunk of data. For example, the data which can be stored in primitive data types, maybe integer, float, double or something like boolean. Okay, so because shared preferences are used for fast access. Okay, so let us try to add the data here. Put string. Okay, here also you can store the data in key value pair. In the shared preference you can store the data in key value pair. So I'll give the key as name and value. This is the value which you want to store there. Okay, in the same way you can add one more statement to store the age. I will give the key as age and the value is your age which you have collected from the edit text. Okay, now what is your next step? You have to close the pen. Then how to close that? What is your pen? It is editor dot commit. Save it. So this is how you can store the data in shared preference. I will repeat the steps. Basically, shared preference is the data storage which is provided in Android, where you can store the data which is of type primitive data. Okay, so the syntax to store the data is take the shared preference variable using get shared preference method. You have to pass the file name, or you can call it as page name. Then you have to give the mode in which you want to write the data. Then take the editor. Using the editor you can push the data in key value pair. Okay, then you commit the editor. So let us execute this application, and if I click on the button, it will store the data in shared preference. But how to see the data? So where it has been stored. So I will show the data. So select your application. As of now, I will comment all this code. We need not to navigate to second page. Okay, so select your application, run the application, select the device. It's installing the registration. Well, here is your application. I will enter the name. Okay, I will enter okay, I will give it as Google. So name is Google, and age you can just, this is for only example, you can take any age here. Okay, and click on submit button. Okay, as of now we are not showing any messages to the user whether it has been stored or not. Okay, let us check it out whether it is stored or not. So where it has been stored, for that you have one tool called as DDMS. You can check it out here at the top right corner. You have the DDMS. If you don't find this icon here, you can click on this and you can select the DDMS. Okay, so go to DDMS. DDMS is nothing but Dalvik Debug Monitor Server. So it's a debug tool. I will explain about the DDMS in detail in upcoming sessions. Okay, so now in this you can find the devices, what all the devices running currently. So here you have the device called as Android Tut. So select that device. Okay, here you have some tabs like threads, heap, etc., and you have the file explorer. So go to file explorer. In that you will find a folder called as data. Okay, so in the data you have one more folder called as, again you have the subfolder called as data. Open that. Here you can find some package names. You can check it out. These are the package names. Okay, so now what is the package name of your application? It is com.example.registration. So search for that package name. It is com.example.registration. It is here. Open that. So now here you have the folder called as shared prefs. We have not created this folder. By default Android has created this folder under your package name. Now open that. So here is the file which you have created. It is a XML file. Okay, now I want to see the data, what has been stored here. So for that, but the problem is here the file is inside the emulator. You can check it out. It's a virtual device. Inside this, inside the internal memory of your virtual device, you have the file. Now you can't open it inside the file which is present inside the emulator. So what you have to do? So select this file. You have an option here. Pull a file from the device. Means it will pull the file from your emulator and you can store it anywhere on your PC. Select that. It is asking where you want to store that file. So I will select the desktop and I will save it. Okay, now check it out whether it has been stored here or not. Okay, so you check it out here. You have the data.xml file. So now try to open that file. Okay, can you check it out? Here is your data. So the name is the key, and here is your value, and the name here is, the key is age, and the value is 54. This is what you have entered in your application. Okay, so I will repeat the steps once again. Shared preference is an option to store data in Android application, where in the shared preference you can store only a primitive data. And the data which has been stored in shared preference will be stored in an XML file in the internal memory of your phone, that is under the folder called as, this is your internal memory. Here you have the folder called as data, and you have one subfolder called as data. Inside that, under your package name, the data will be stored. Here is your package name. Under that, it will create one subfolder called as shared prefs, and inside that it will create the XML file with the name whatever you have given here. You check it out. When you created the shared preference, you have given the name for the file, what we called it as a page. So this is the file name actually. So with this name, it will create the file, that is XML file, and it will store the data into that particular XML file. Okay, as it is present inside the internal memory, the Android application or the Android system will have the faster access to this particular file, and also it is in XML format. Okay, it is easy to read the content from the XML format because it is stored in a key value pair. Okay, now if you want to see the data which is present in this file, you can select the file and you can click on pull a file from the device. So it will ask where it has to store the file. You can give the path and you can click on save button. Okay, and it will be available in that particular location where you have stored. So you can open that file and you can see the data which is present in that particular file. Okay, so here is your data and it is a XML file. So this is how you can store data into the shared preference. Now our next task is how to read the data from shared preference. So let us go to our basic example. This is how we have written data to the page. Now if you want to read the data, if you want to read a data from a page, then what all the steps you have to follow? The first step is, as usual, open the book. Okay, then the second step is you have to open that particular page. In which page, what the content you want to read. So that particular page you have to open. So open the page. Then here you don't want any pen, so you can directly read that. Okay, so for that, read the content. Okay, so then you can close the book. So that's what you have to do with the reading of content from shared preference. So let us implement these steps and let us see whether it will work or not. So Now here I will remove this comment. Okay, so just I will use intent here. And we don't want these things. I will remove it. If not, I will comment it. We can use it later. See, you are sending the data and you are collecting it in next page. But if you are not sending the data, you have commented the code here. So in page 2 also you have to comment this particular code where you are collecting the data. If not, it will show the error, because if you are not sending any data and if you are trying to extract some data from the bundle, then it will show the null pointer exception because it won't contain any data. Now let us see, without sending data through intent, we have stored the data in our shared preference, and let us see how to read the data from shared preference in your page 2. So go to page 2. Here look into the steps. What we have to do first, open the book. So how to do that? Use shared preferences. Okay, so you can give any name, something like I will give sh1. Okay, but better always go with the proper nomenclature. Okay, now here get shared preferences. It accepts 2 parameters. You have to give the particular page name where you have stored the data. You have stored the data in data page, so you have to give the same name here. So I will give it as data. Now mode, it is mode private. Now you have taken the book, you have opened the page. Then now next step is you have to read the content. So how to read the content? Take one string variable. Okay, give the name as name. Then use your shared preference dot get string. Dot get string means it is asking for the key. What is the key for that particular value? So what is the key? You can check it out here. The key for your name is name itself. So here give the key as name. Okay, now what is this default value? Suppose you have not written any data to the shared preference, means to this particular file, and if you are trying to access the data, then there is a chances of getting IO exception. So to avoid that, instead of if it does not contain any value, you can give the default value when there is no value with this particular key. So that's why there is one second parameter, it is default value. You can give any value. If whenever you are trying to access the data from this shared preference, if you are getting NA, it means there is no data for this particular key. Okay, end the statement. Now I will collect the age also. Take the age variable. Same process. Shared preference dot get string. You have to give the key. Check it out. What is the key? It is age. Copy the data. Copy it, paste it here. Here also I will give the default value as NA. Well, we have collected the data from shared preference. Now let us try to set this content to our text view. I will uncomment these two statements. Your text view dot set text, it will set the text. You can check it out here. And this age is this one, which you have collected from shared preference. Now let us try to execute this. Save the application. Run. Okay, run it on the same emulator. Okay, I'll provide the name here. Give it as Sam. Okay, age you can give it something like 34. Well, click on submit button. You can see in your page 2 you are getting the data. Name is Sam, where age is 34. Well, this is how you can store data in shared preference, and I will explain about all other storages in upcoming sessions.